Testing, testing. The microphone, yeah, microphone is on. Headsets connected. I think everything is on. Streamslab. Let's verify the YouTube and everything is on. Today's topic is gonna be a nice one. Let's give it a few minutes for it to connect. YouTube, YouTube is live and well. All microphones are working. Let's verify the YouTube and everything is on. Topic of today is one that has been in my mind for a while, and it's it's just a natural course that eventually one will come to this topic to talk about the domestication of the colonized woman. And it is a topic that needs to be talked about. It is a topic that needs to be discussed, and it is a topic that people need to be aware of. How and why the woman became domesticated, especially the African women, especially those who were colonized across the world. And in our modern society, many of us think that the people in which we hold close to us, the women, have always been what they are, but fail to understand that the world that we live in, how it is, became what it is through the domestication of people. You know, domestication first was tried on animals, then people. And today we can see the net effect of said domestication. So one should ask himself when we speak about the way forward, how and why we should change things, and also people who claim that a certain things are traditional or tradition. One should ask themselves this question: how old is the tradition that you hold dearest to you? These are the topics that one must talk about. These are the topics that people. Hello, Serena. I see you. I see you, Serena. Welcome to the live. So these are the topics that needs to be discussed, and people need to make aware of it. How the woman became domesticated. You know, it's a sad event to see that the modern woman is what she is, especially the African woman, that she is what she is today, where she is nothing but what she can provide in the kitchen and at home. A woman with ambition is one that is frowned upon. So people do ask, would you rather want your woman to have ambitions or woman that you provide for? You know, most men will say, I want to provide for women, but of the I was vocal about I do not wish my woman to be reliant on me in a way where she's handicapped in how she's going to progress in life, but rather that yes, she is um, reliant on me to a extent where she's not dependent on me. And I think that is the change or the deviance or the variant in which many men rather want their women to be reliant on them or dependent on them in ways where they are handicapped so they can move forward nor back because they are bound to this man. So let's see if the YouTube is working as it's supposed to. Uh, how do I do this? How do I do this? So yes, these are the introduction of domestic animals. So one must understand that the today's modern, how to call it, gender roles, as many people say. Thank you for the roses. Thank you for the roses. Today's gender roles that we know it to be. Most people will think that it is something that has been always ancient, where a woman is supposed to be in the kitchen and a man is supposed to roam about and bring money into the family as he's able to acquire such money. But the actuality of these claims are false. many societies, especially post colonial societies, you will find that it is false that the man was the head of the family. I see those who are requesting to come up. I'll bring you up just shortly. I just have to say a few things and I'll bring you up. I haven't. How do I say it? I won't ignore your request, but I can bring you up and you can listen from the how do you call it? From the comments. But I'll bring people up. I mean, from the panel. So the three pillars we have to understand before we move on is this: how gender role was understood in many societies, most post-colonial societies in Africa and elsewhere. That gender roles were fluid. It wasn't never rigid. That means your father could be doing something that you saw your mother did, and it could change. And the reason being that people have capabilities depending on how they traverse through life. So your father may have an accident or may be unfortunate in life, in which then your mother have to step in and do the things that he's supposed to do, and vice versa. Because life and things, unfortunate things can happen to people, and also it changes the role that we hold. But here lies the fact that in many societies, even though the men or the women are incapable of holding the roles that they hold, they are hell bent on holding those roles, wanting to how will I say it, wanting to insist that it is their right, and in many cases their God-given right to hold these roles as a man, to hold the role as a woman. So that's the first pillar of power sharing. Hello, Mystic. I hear you. I see you. So the Victorian era in which we have that
Hello.
was influenced many African society is what we mainly practice today. And the roles that we have at homes is Western. It's not Africans. And I will lay the claims to why I know that these are Western, either from the Bible, the Quran, or from through Western influence. So the norms were either imposed through priest, when people go to church and so on, and also um, through other ways. Either people go to school, they are taught that, oh, a woman is supposed to be this way, a man is supposed to be this way. But in those societies, it was never for it meant for it to happen that way. So, to people who are joining, welcome to today's live, and we're speaking about the domestication of women, how women became the second-class citizens of many post-colonial societies, where women are left behind, where women are taught to stay quiet and stand back, and these are it is true, how will I say it, event where people see, let's say, their mothers being treated unfortunately by their father. That's when they all of a sudden become feminists. I'm talking about the men. But if they are the one doing it, all of a sudden they claim that they are how will I say it? It is a God given right for them to do so, and I think those are dangerous claims to hold. So, hello, Mystic. How do you do? How are you doing? It's been a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. How are you?
I'm fine. I'm fine, and you?
I'm okay. I'm right.
So today I changed the topic a little bit. We're talking about the domestication of women and how women became domesticated. Do you think
Can you define to me what's domestication mean?
domestication is when, like, let's say something that is wild or is brought home and altered to serve a purpose? So let's say you take a dog, for example, from the wild, you train it in a way where you use it to defend your homes, or a cat to catch mouse and mice and so on. That's what I mean by domestication.
Okay. So are you trying to say that women are equal as man?
To a certain degree, because I don't think both are measurable in ways that we think, and that you can measure a woman's either wealth or equality, you know, because when you look at human biology and how humans behave and how humans are designed, you can't just say that a man is worth more, especially when you are dependent of on a woman.
Hmm, that's interesting. It seems like you are line up with the feminism.
I'm not lining up with feminists. I'm lining up with what nature is, because you see, as a man, right, everyone on this planet came out of a woman. That is a fact. So without women, we men can't procreate. It is a 50-50 event when it comes to in terms of procreation, that we need each other in order to procreate, to make babies, you know. And it's not about leaning towards the left or the right. It's what is
Yeah,
factual.
but when we speak about biologically and
Hmm.
physically and mentally, don't
Yeah.
you think that man is more like um, superior than women in every aspect?
No, I don't think so, and I know that is false. Men are not
So,
superior
so you mean like
to
a
women
woman can?
in every aspect.
So a woman is like strong as equal as man.
When we're talking about strength, and that's why I think when people are discussing these things, we have to make how do you call it, segregation in terms of how we how will I say it? How we try to measure the equality. Okay, so if we talk about strength, yes, they are. When we talk about strength, yes, men are more likely to be stronger than women, and that's strength. But then you move on to other. So if we are scoring points, hello, purpose, I see you. If we are scoring points, right? One here, one there. Okay, let's say football. Okay, now, so when it comes to strength, men are stronger than women. Okay, next question. You claim men are superior. In what ways are men superior than women? Apart
Well,
from strength, apart from strength. So we've talked about the strength part. Where, in what other areas are men superior?
in 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 work, in purpose, in fulfilling it is uh, duty. Um, I mean, man is more like more. Um, what to say? I don't know how to explain, but uh, I don't think we have the same role as women biologically speaking.
And roles have nothing to do with biology. And that's one thing many men have to understand.
What I want to say is, but we are unique
Mhm,
in many roles
mhm.
that cannot be mixed or cannot be equalized.
And as you said, we are trying to score how men are superior to women, because a lot of men make the claim that men are superior than women. So then we ask, how are men superior? Okay, fine, strength. That men are stronger than women, or men tend to be stronger than women. But apart from strength, in what other areas are men superior than women?
Like man is more likely to survive in in bad wars, like in war, in for example in struggles, in war, in many ways that man is likely to be survive and live.
Of
and
course, and yet again, it speaks
and
more on the strength part. Okay,
it's
so
not
let
strong. It's like
to survive in hardship, you need strength. And
you
uh,
don't have to use like muscular, like you don't have to use this physically. It's the thoughts, the resilience, the
let me,
masculinities.
the reason why men tend to, I'll say modern day men and modern women tend to survive, will survive differently, is this. Yes, it is true that men are stronger than women, and men are better at certain things than women. But one thing you have to understand is that women are group of people who can't tolerate pain. You know, a fed up woman is a dangerous woman. Women hold a role in society where we men fail to understand. We fail to understand how dangerous women are, the way they can influence men to do their bidding for them. Because a woman, because of modern society, right? Um, you might have a sister, but he can speak in ways where she can make other men do her biddings for her, you know, and that is the power that many women have. Okay, but when we come to superiority, what many people think, especially when we talk about superiority in terms of colonization, where I am better than you, as white people claim that we are better than you in every aspect, it is false. And I remember when boxing in the sports of boxing, and I know you watch boxing, when black people and white people started boxing against each other, and white people didn't want black people to participate in boxing because then it breaks the how do you call it, the idea of in which they have put into the world that white men are superior, because the black men were beating them up. So when you see a white man getting beat up, then the idea that I am superior to you falls apart, because when you're getting defeated, it doesn't speak on superiority. But the reason why women are dominated in many areas is because most, especially in our modern world, is because those areas are created by men and for men, right? Um, I'm not saying that, and I'm not advocating for men nor women, but I'm speaking truly on facts. One thing many societies fail to understand, especially people in societies who hold religion as the cradle of their society or their civilization, is this: that women becomes second class citizens. And it is something that is very, especially in Somalia, for example, where women are being abused and tortured and mutilized in ways that is not uh, good. It's not beneficial to anyone involved, because those women are more traumatized than they are actually happy. So what happens? Those women know nothing but traumatization, so they only feed trauma into their people. So you see the behaviors of these people when they are in relations with other people, especially Somalian people. You can see clear as day the way Somalian people behave, especially. And while when things are happening to them in Minnesota, in America, people can actually put forth claims that these people are dirty, these people are this way, and so on.
They
You,
they've been accused everywhere, not just Minnesota, in
exactly, but
Norway, in Europe, in many countries.
yes, it speaks more of how the society in which they find themselves is being structured. That's why they are. So yes, men can be superior or stronger than women, but when it comes to superiority across the board, is false, because there are women who are stronger than some men. There are women who are capable of doing certain things than some men,
But
and
you
vice
you
versa.
can you cannot use that example. Somalia is more oppressive. It's not about man is stronger than woman, and in the society, like it's a more oppression, more colony, like more religiously motivated. It's a distractive.
No, I believe that when modern day
It's like war, active war against women.
many African societies have had a society where women have played a prominent role. That means they held a very fast and high roles in that society. Okay, we have the Ashanti Kingdom in Ghana, the Zulus, the Dahomey people, the Ewes, and the Malian Kingdom, and so on. Women played a prominent role in these societies until after colonization, where the role of women um, went downwards, or women had fewer roles, if not nothing, in today's society. So then you should ask yourself a question: why did women have more roles in those societies? But then, when they became Christian, when they became Muslims, when they became Jews, all of a sudden the roles of women vanished in the society in which they hold. Because I see a correlation between how women were treated in society when they weren't religious and how women are treated in the society in which they find themselves to be religious.
In my region, pre-Christianity, There was a woman called Shuba or Magda.
Queen
She
of
was a
Sheba.
queen.
Hmm.
Queen. She was ruling a lot, many years. But after Christianity, never we have had a queen.
You see what I mean?
Only empire, only rulers, only man.
Exactly. And how far have the kingdom of Ethiopia become? It's a shithole.
Yeah, but it says the Bible itself says that the woman should be submissive to her husband, and
Yes,
that was a crystal clear command.
and that's what I'm saying. That when these roles come to societies that they don't belong, they destroy the foundation of that society. And that's why we see societies in many African countries, especially medicine. Many African society where men women practice healing, okay, either herbs and so on. A lot of them were dominated by women. So when you limit the roles of women in that society, all of a sudden the knowledge of healing vanishes. So now today, look at Africans, common diseases they can cure. You know, the paracetamol tablet that we take, the pill, paracetamol, right? You have the plant in Ghana. But ask yourself how many people are aware that we have the plant that you can just pluck it, chew it, and have the same effect organically. But people would rather go to the stores, the pharmacies, to buy said medicines to medicate themselves where you have the tree. So those were the dangers of in which when the roles of women were limited. Those were the aftermath of it, that we can't heal ourselves. You know, we don't understand how to coexist with the nature in which we find ourselves. Because in post colonial Africa, when the men went to war, it was the women who ruled the society. Your grandmother, your aunties, your father, your mothers, your sisters. They were the women who took care of business whilst the men were away. So then, if you remove the role of the women, who takes care of the society when the men are away? And that is why I think it's a dangerous idea that many men hold, that, oh, as a man, I'm going to take care of my woman. She's not supposed to work. She's not supposed to do nothing. It is a very dangerous and a very selfish ideology to have, because God forbid, if you die, who is going to take care of your wife? Because you forbade her from working, you know. And these are the things that many men have to take into consideration before they leap into these ideologies that men are superior than women. But that's beside the point. Hello, Purpose. How do you do?
Hey, greetings to you. I'm
Great.
well, thank you. How do you do?
I'm also fine. I'm also fine. Thank you very much. I'm diving into some serious business here.
That's very important, isn't it?
Yeah, it's very important, you know, because I was thinking I was going to have a whole live, and I was like, listen, we haven't had a topic about domesticating of women, how women became a domesticated property, you know, because I was having this idea at call it debate with somebody about surnames, that, oh, she's gonna take my surname if we get married and so on. I was like, no, you are not gonna take my surname. You're not gonna have my surname because that's my family name. You have your own family that you belong to, so you have to stick with your family name, whilst I stick to mine. And what we create together, we create together. But then you have to understand where you become. But people don't understand that when you take off my surname, it's you saying that you are my property. I own you. And many people don't understand these um, these
Yeah, it's
things.
about that's 100% true. But also in African culture, when a woman is married, although they want to take up a name of the husband, then they're somehow perceived to be like something in society. You know how people urge and yearn so much to be married, like, oh, you're Mrs. Somebody now, or you're Mrs. This and that. And also, I've seen sects of women when I was at uni. They were they were like, some were getting married or some were married, and now they're saying, oh, and now I only play with people that are married. We only playing cliques of married women. You know, they feel like they've achieved something very beautiful and amazing when they have been owned, they've been domesticated like a dog.
Yeah, and I think that's what is happening in modern society, where we have this feminist movement where women are deviating from what we call the domestication of women, then, or what I call domestication of women, in which it's created this feminist type of movement where some men are opposed to it because it's like a woman and such. But then when I look at it, because and usually when I look at these things about the role women play, I look at it in a broad type of scenario where I looked at, listen, women have a role to play and they have to hold the role that they play in society. Not just because I am your husband, I'm going to erase everything that makes you who you are. You know, and I think that is the importance that many men have to understand, because the nation of Ghana, for example, if we, let's say, adopt the more Western way of coexisting with the women, or Islamic way of coexisting with women, our nation will collapse. We will go from what we know Ghana to be a shithole. Because when we are talking about the anti-colonial movement, right, most of the people who um, fought for the nation's freedom were women. Because in any society, when the city falls, the women are usually the first victims, and people know well what is done to women when societies fall. So the women usually fight the hardest to make sure their society never crumbles or collapse, and that's one thing that we have to understand. Mystic, do you think that having roles or gender roles is beneficial to a society?
Yeah, a man or woman, yes, not more
Okay,
than that.
how so?
Well, I mean, it's natural state to be like man and woman. The woman cannot be man and the man cannot be woman. It is like it will go out of the nature itself.
But when you speak of a natural state, that means it's default that all of a sudden any man and woman is born to do that thing. That's what natural means.
Yeah, women should do it according to woman's role, and man
And
men
what is a woman's role? What is a woman's role?
while having children and married and take care of her husband and kids, and just work. Of course, work is also part of life.
Do you know that the concept of marriage is fairly new? That marriage itself is something that came up when people started owning things. So it's like the concept of marriage came almost very close to slavery and colonization, where you married to protect assets. That was the reason why people married then. So people allied themselves with families in which they believe could either maintain their assets or grow their assets. But prior to that, it wasn't necessary to marry because there was nothing to own.
But the women themselves would is extinct. Even the man would extinct if there is no like married and
No, no,
having children.
but that's not true, because procreating and making babies is different from marrying. You don't have to marry to make babies.
Okay.
Yeah, but that's true. You don't have to marry to make babies. You can make baby, and we have countless of time. People who are not married that have babies together. You don't need that. And I think this is the honest truth. The reason why people put more emphasis on marriage is because it maintains today, as we know it, like harmony in the society which people find themselves. That's the reason why people did it or maintained marriage. But prior to that, marriage wasn't a thing, and it's like a concept that is fairly new.
So you mean like you can have romantic and then have children without having officially married, like
Yes, you can. You absolutely can.
but that will be beneficial for a man, not for a woman, because when you are
A-
divorced, you will take everything what you own, and
And
that
that's the
the
thing. You
woman will
see,
left alone.
and that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, you see, marriage in terms of having marital, how do you call it, materialistic things, and marriages or unionship without these materialistic things. In many societies, you came together with a man to give birth, and that was the purpose. When there was nothing else, and I just mentioned your name, purpose. That was the purpose, because there wasn't
Crazy, isn't it? Yeah.
there was nothing else tied to marriage, only procreation. So imagine this world, right? The only thing that was tied to marriage was only making babies. So women will go to a man, hey, Mystic, you're a man, I'm a woman, I want two children. Do you want to help me with it? Yes or no? That's it.
What about sharing resources and assets, all of this, like house and everything?
Yeah, and as I say, those all those things became made marriage a thing. That's we have it today, like kind of a business because of the assets in which it came. That's where you see women wanting to marry rich men because of what they can gain. But if you remove the aspect of gaining things when you marry, you see marriage will be people will marry with common sense or will unite themselves with people based on common sense, not what they can gain. And we see countless of these how do you call it events or incidents where you see a woman will marry a football player or someone rich, then after 3 years 2 years she will, I want a divorce, I want half. Then she will find out the man was smart, he put the assets in his mother's name, now she gets nothing.
Moroccan guy, yeah.
Yeah, Hakimi principle, right? And these are the things. Then they realize I was stupid. I was just in for the money, not progression. Because as I remember, people, and I remember my grandmothers and people who were before them, they were with women. You see, a society where only women live. They just men came just to make babies with them, and they just left, and that was it. The society was the
And
village was only
also,
men and women, children and women. That was what it was.
I think there is a word, I don't know what it's but there is you can actually do agreement before ever getting married. You can have agreement, both of you
Your
have
microphone
agreement on time.
is low.
Huh?
Your microphone is low.
Yeah, my laptop is so bad. Look, we can have you can have also agreement with your spouse before you even get married. Like you can have agreement officially that says this is mine, this is mine, and this is yours. When we end it, if there is something going between us, and we just take our own assets, like this, there is also agreement. You don't have to go like difficult process.
Yeah, that I agree. I agree with. But that's our modern day terms. We're talking about a society that is beyond this, where we talk about, let's say, de-domesticating women, because now women are being domesticated. I don't know if you want to chip in. Like, how do we de-domesticate the women in the society which we find ourselves in?
Excuse me, just 1 second.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll be back in 10 minutes. I
Okay. Okay.
just
No
finished
problem. No
working out,
problem.
so I'm gonna shower. Yeah,
Okay, okay.
yeah.
Don't just do you, man. I'll still be here. We just started. So when I talk about
So
de-domesticating women, right? In societies where women are forced to do things that usually it's not called normal or natural to women, as we are using the word.
depend on
Um,
man,
what?
basically. Depending on man.
Yes, based on what man deems to be necessary, right? Where a woman is forced to be in the kitchen, take care of her husband. But one thing that we know for sure when you study birth, because me, I've lived around a lot of women, is this: that when a woman gives birth to a child, in many times she's incapable of doing the things she normally did. She can only, let's say, breastfeed. That's all. So the man has to step in and help a lot in many cases. But here lies the funny thing, that many men, despite if your woman lost a leg, despite if your woman is sick, she ought to take care of you because that is why you married her. So you ask yourself, did you marry a wife or did you marry a slave?
It's like, oh my god. Uh,
You see, when I said that marriage probably happened in close proximity to when the slavery era came, because you can see that through with those era, a lot of things change in society, and henceforth marriage and how we treat women, you know. And that is why I do come to this line. We have those discussions about their de-domesticating of women, and that's the reason why I also find it difficult to date, because these days when I speak, let's say I meet a woman and is interested, but then she gets to know me, and I tell her, okay, if you marry me, you are not going to have my family name. You're not going to have it. I want you to be a powerful version of yourself. And all of a sudden, you're shocked. I can take care of you, but I won't take care of you. You have to be able to cover your basic need as a woman, as a human.
Yeah.
That's what I believe in, because, as I say, God forbid if you die, who is going to take care of your wife? Who's going to take care of your children? Yeah. What kind of man wants that? To have a woman that is not capable of taking care of business, you know?
The problem when I say biology before is that the thing is that when they are growing, let's say at 40 or 38,
Uh-huh.
women's, now they are reaching to the state where they cannot have children anymore, or they cannot able have children.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously these ladies will be called a left lady over. So nobody will date them, nobody will marry them. So a man will look at 40, at 48, 5 years old, looking at 30 or 25 years girl, because if he thinks about fatalities, about nourishments, about all, because she is new and she can take care of her childrens, and she's a new for him.
And that's why I say these are modern terminologies or modern events, because prior to these, after colonization, right, people never needed to, how will I say it, have leftover women. There's nothing like a leftover
But
woman.
women cannot have birth at 50, after 50 think.
Of course, that's just biology, but there's
Yeah.
nothing like
So
left over, and it's more of like either you've given birth and you've done giving birth, and that's what it is, right? But when we're speaking about biology, yes, it is more likely to have, when people are younger, to have a strong offsprings. That's what it is. But men being what they are, and especially, and we can, I think maybe next slide we'll talk about um, why men find younger women attractive, because it's one thing that we have to look into. It's not necessarily how do we call it, because of biology, but rather it could be something deeper than that. So that's one thing that we have to look into. Why? But I think using the term leftover woman is actually something, because we all have mothers, and will you call your mother a leftover
I mean,
woman?
no, her looks, her attractiveness will like disappear after she reached this age, and people look, back, and she will have a problem to find her boyfriend or husband, because she is a grown, she is like heading to the state where she cannot have a children, and man will not bow down quickly to women.
And the reason why that is a problem in modern day society is because of how society is structured. But prior to that, you won't have a problem with those things, where hence with societies that practice polygamy, societies that practice other alternatives to what we have in Western societies, or in societies that choose to practice. Because in let's say if I have a wife, right, and oh, she don't have a woman, she's older, yeah, you can add her to your collection, if I'm gonna use such word loosely, then you have multiple, so she have a man to be with, and that's how it is. So there's nothing like a leftover woman, but because of modern society and Christianity, where it makes marriage binding to a specific person, that's what creates the problem that we have today, being a leftover woman, being second-hand goods, and so on, in modern terms, so
Yeah.
I
So
want to ask you.
what he's saying is that
Mhm.
they should work as man, as equal. They should have like the prosperities as man have. So that's what you are backing on.
I'm backing on the fact that women are necessary in the societies that we find ourselves. So when we are making decisions as men, or doing things as men, we have to understand that we have women amongst us.
And so you want them to do what the man's work, like going to the factories and working heavy works, and doing all man things that they can, so that they can survive.
If a woman is capable of doing it, yes, then she can be part of it. The reason why men do it are men are more likely to survive in those environments than women. That's the reason why more men tend to go towards those jobs because uh, they are as biologically more capable of handling those physical stress than women, and that's it. And that's the only thing that it lies to. Apart from that, you know, women have been capable, especially you see when you look into African civilization, right? The Dahomey Kingdom, the Ashanti Kingdom, and as you mean Ethiopia, Queen of Sheba, you see that women held roles in these societies. So why is it that all of a sudden it has changed and people believe that women are not capable of holding those roles? You see where I'm going with this? Because in the Dahomey Kingdom, we had all women military.
Um, no, I think. Look, I believe myself. If we let women rule as a president or as a queen, I think there will be worse war. Like it will be chaos.
There is chaos already in this world. There is chaos already. I don't think it will
No, no,
change
no.
with a woman.
I'm,
Listen,
I'm referring to that specific kingdom or territory. Like I believe that the woman is very temper to
no,
uh, to
no,
start something, and they are always unstable.
no, that's not
Like
true.
they don't think through like man. You know,
No,
I don't.
actually, it's the opposite. Men don't think
No.
things through. Let me tell you one thing. You see, and I said this earlier, women, right, are the people who, in many cases, have more to lose if a city, a society crumbles, right?
Do you know? Do you know? There's a country called Minimar. Minimar, I think.
Yeah, I think Myanmar.
Myanmar, yeah, sorry, I
Yeah.
mispronounced Myanmar. That's how a woman was actually, she took a Nobel Prize,
Hmm.
and just she commit genocide. After quickly she took a Nobel Prize.
Yeah,
So
but
just
so did the
no.
Ethiopian president.
Uh,
You see, so it's not like a man or a woman problem. It
no,
is.
but I mean, a woman is very rare in this world to lead
No,
a country.
no. I
But you
think
see them like turn into chaos, distraction.
no. That's not true. I don't think just because a woman is leading a country is gonna be worse off than a man. Okay, and that's why people fail to understand how leadership, especially of times of countries, work. Usually, you have a council of people. Even for men, we have a council of people that will advise you on how to make the rules. So, if a woman is leading, let's say your sister, your mother, and you have people around her, the things and people who have sense
Like
around
man.
that person, like man, like woman, like a dog, like a cat, whatever. But men, because of ego, and I tell them, listen, most of the problems that we have in this world as men,
No,
right?
no,
uh,
what I want to
it-
say is just women. I don't care the councils, the parliament. Just I want to rule, see country rule only by women, everything by women, and I see how it will work.
no, listen, let me tell you one thing. When men started ruling the world, we have colonization. When men started ruling the world, we have slavery. Okay, and just those two things, right, speaks volume of how detrimental we men are to society. So yeah, I understand what you say, but listen, I for one have lived in society where I've seen how remarkable women can be, and I've seen the contribution of women in that society. So I for one can say that I have it as a factual and proven that yes, women can lead in such society and they can lead very well. But when we talk about modern society in terms of Western civilization, the entire civilization is structured in a way that it goes against the woman. So even if a woman is leading it, it will crumble because it was never meant to be led by a woman. The same like America, it was never designed for the black man.
Yeah, I mean, I cannot imagine seeing a nation ruled by women, and they will be sustained militarily and security and economic, I don't think this will ever happen in reality. Like even exists.
You don't think it will work? Well,
No,
and that
no, I don't believe. Like
and
I
that's
don't
the
believe
reason
it.
why
It doesn't matter how strong they are.
I
It
understand what
doesn't
you're
matter
saying,
how wealthy they are.
and I understand because of what that's why we talk about the decolonization, to deconstruct our mind from these colonial mentalities that we have. So, for example, um, the things that you claim that a woman can never lead a nation or a group of people, even though there is countless of events or accounts where women have led nations, but yet again,
Nah, not
not only you,
necessarily.
I'm not
They
saying
are not
only you.
countless. They are few. They're rare, by the way.
Listen, they are not rare.
They are not that much. Come
Listen,
on, be honest. Even in all nations, they are very small.
men have wiped out the history of women's involvement. In the and especially Ghana and many West African countries, the Civil Rights Act or movement to fight for independence, in many cases, were financed by the Ghanaian women. That means the men who you saw in Kruma, the Big Sis, JB Dankwa, and them standing there gallantly, like, yes, we fought for independence. In the shadows or the back, it was the women going up and down selling things so that they can have money to go places, borrowing money and running the finances in the background so these men can shine. And the reason why I attend to this, especially with the African people, and this is why I want our women to be prominent. You see, the African woman is the most respected woman in the universe, in the world. And with that said, I will need our African women to have a paradigm shift. There is this fashion, right, where the African women will say, "Oh, I dress the way I dress because black men like long wigs, fake hair, and all those things." But the actuality, most black men don't. They like things natural. Most men, even not necessarily black men, like their women natural. Okay, so then we ask ourselves, why have we come to the point where our women look the way they look, even though we tell them that they are beautiful because they don't believe us? Because if a lot of African men or black men did actually promote the beauty standards, African beauty standards, more of our women will be more confident in the way they are. And the reason why African men are weak is because our women do not back us. That is why we are weak. So we as men have to create society, how do you call it, chambers where our women can thrive. We have to create environments where our women can stand behind or in front of us when it is necessary. But if we pack them uh, at the back of the bus, when struggle comes, we all suffer because we have no backbone in our society. So we
Yeah, but
have to.
when it
Uh,
comes about the
mhm.
Africans, man, I think the women themselves is been brainwashed by the whites colony. I mean, they buy like white wings and they hang on their
Okay,
head, look like the white.
let,
But unfortunately, it's not attractive, you know.
let me tell you one thing. Let me tell you one thing, and this is this. Why do you think you don't find Ethiopian women, Somalian women, other Asian women, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Russian women, white women, mingling with other ethnic groups? Because their men will kill them.
What do you mean mangling, like mixing?
Yeah, like marrying and so on, because their men will kill them. And that's the thing. Because it's frowned upon. Listen,
So
Ethiopians
they don't have to.
Ethiopians will say Ethiopian women for Ethiopian men. Don't they say that?
Yes, yes,
Yes,
very true.
Somalian men do the same thing, right? White men do the same thing.
Not
Arab men
necessarily.
do the same thing.
Not that much actually.
Who?
Only this culture, like Ethiopian culture, more strict to marry
No,
foreigners.
it's not about that. It's not about strictness. There's no thing as a strict culture. It's more about, and I'm gonna get to what it is all about. It is that one. Your woman is the cradle of your civilization. Okay, so if you don't have more women that hold your values, that society will crumble. So And this is what, when people like Dr. Umar Johnson speak about, people don't understand that where with why he frowns upon interracial marriage and homosexuality and so on. People have to understand, frowning upon homosexuality is not always meaning that you are homophobic, but also we have to uh, maintain family dynamic. Okay, so for example, if we live in societies where the African family is not solid, so if the traditional family is not solid enough, how are we promoting behaviors that makes our family dynamic less solid? You see where this is going. So you people defending, I actually like the fact that, yeah, Ethiopian men for Ethiopian women and so on, because you have to maintain the Ethiopian civilization, and it comes with the women. But here lies the West Africans, if I may say, Black Americans and so on, where there is no reinforcement of how the women are supposed to be in terms of who they can procreate with. It's
So
left.
they have no boundary.
No, because the men don't put boundaries, so there's nothing they can respect. Listen, ask any black woman, right? What if we're talking about pride in black men, what pride do you hold? Ask any black woman when it comes to black men as a general. Where is the pride in your men? And hear what they will tell you. There's nothing prideful, something silly. Oh, we have big dicks. We can run fast. That's all.
We are stronger like that.
Exactly. Those are the things. But because the black men have been so demonized, the black men have been so degraded to the bottom that his woman even don't see pride in them. So his woman will look like the woman that the next strongest man can what like. So she look closer to the white woman, because at least if I'm with a white woman, a white man, I'm with a strong man, because they know the history that white men hold.
In order to be selected.
Yes. So when people fight against those things, some in many cases it's not about phobia, it's more about survival and the longevity of the people. But it's only black women that will make the excuse for this stupid behavior. And that's the thing. And it also speaks more of how the black woman's mind have been domesticated to be used as a tool to, especially in Western countries, to how do you call it, eradicate the African family or the normal black family. So for example, we find ourselves in a unique time and place where if a white man is dating a black woman, all of a sudden, mwah, it's beautiful. But when a black man is dating a white mother, all of a sudden you don't like your mother. You don't like no, you don't like the way you look. All of a sudden it's frowned upon. You see, and these are the problems that it brings. So you see that it's more encouraged for her to date outside of what you call the ethnic group, but the opposite is not true. And these are the reason why we have these topics, so that we can dive deeper into the problematic aspects of we as black men and African men hold when it comes to how we um, build our society, because our societies are in shambles. So when we speak of, oh, our men, we are better than the women, but what have we achieved as black men to claim that we are better than our women? Nothing. So then where is the betterment? Where's the superiority? Where we can't even understand that garbage within our streets is bad, that we need better security, we need better health, and so on. We have been defeated in all aspects of life, and yet again we claim that we are superior as people. So I don't claim that a black man is superior than a black woman. In
So so if the let's flip the superiority of man into women, do you think the slavery will never happen, even black against black and white by women?
Yeah,
It will never happen.
it will never happen.
I say it would be like triple
No,
happening.
let me
It
tell
will
you
be
why.
worse.
No, let me tell you.
Worse.
Let me tell you why
Like it's like
slavery
total
will not
traffic
happen.
global.
Slavery wouldn't have happened if the societies that were conquered were ruled by women. Because I think you haven't, but I've spoken, and I know a lot of women who have been SA'd, by men and so on, that have been taken advantage of. Women usually, before a woman, if you meet a new woman, and purpose, people who do date know this, before she will even go out for you the first time, she have thought about it 100 reasons why she shouldn't. So when a woman seeing a foreign man coming to her village, what is the likelihood of you saying open her doors for this person? Only men could do it, because men, you think you are strong, so what? If he anything, I will fight him, right? But a woman will like, nah, I don't even want you
Yes,
close to my children.
we did though. We look. The thing is this: when this white come to Europe, to Africa to colonize, we didn't just give up. Many Africans, locals, and many ethnicities, they fight against them. But the things, they don't have that technology. They don't have that weapon. They haven't. They just have the stick like normal. They cannot defend themselves.
You have to understand.
So there
Before,
was almost crash.
no, it's not about the weapon. White people didn't come to Africa and started blasting their way through everything.
Yes, they can was a highly sophisticated weapon.
No, no,
They
that's what.
did.
But listen, they used the weapons later, but not in the beginning. The beginning in any warfare across history of mankind, you need intelligence. That means you have to send people to come and gather information. You know, to know how they speak, what they eat, how they survive, and everything. Then you go back, you plan how to defeat them. That's what happened. So in order for it to happen, the men had to how do you call it? Welcome their enemies inside the walls of their cities. That is how the Trojan horse episode happened. So they were welcomed by the men, because men, we don't understand danger the way women does, because we think we are strong, so we can fight our way through everything. We can use violence to solve our problems. You see
Look,
where I'm going with
look.
it? But
The,
listen.
the the reason I believe though, like when I see there are some Africans within the African black history,
Mhm.
and there are many locals, kingdom, and rulers and empire before this colony happened ever, and there was also slave between them. Like, there was trading slave between the black against the black,
Mhm.
but it was not that full scale like the white. So the reason that they been very highly like um, full scale of slavery and export into the world to the west is because this white guy came, like, was highly sophisticated machines, gun, and everything, tanks. And even those who was a ruler, who was like a king, they themselves become a slave, the
They didn't
victim.
have tanks in those
No,
times.
they have the ships. The
Yeah,
ship. There was like
but
a kind
but
of
listen.
like they have like a
I
power like explosion.
I know. I have studied or studied. I pay well attention to warfare and how warfare works. Any weapon has a range in which it is effective. It's not like these people they just shoot at anything they saw. It has to be. It's a tactical thing. Before any African society crumbled, they took the mind of the people first, where they brought the Bible, religion. So whilst you brought the religion, the white
Well, there was
Jesus.
no Christianity in that country
What?
in Africa during
Listen.
this, before this colony.
Before
It was not
any
populated.
listen, before any African society crumbled to the Westerners, missionaries came down first. The missionary
They
reported
haven't
back.
had power to dominate Christianity. It was a very,
Listen,
very less. It was almost nothing.
missionaries were the spies for the military that came and conquered after. Those what happened. You think it just knew where to go? They didn't have GPS then. Columbus was going to India and went to America and thought he has gone to India. So just by luck, this stupidity happened. What he discovered America. So you have to understand, before any African society happened, they had to get intelligence, and even to this day, in with GPSs, with all these modern equipments, You need boots on the ground in order to conquer a nation. So that's how where works. That's what warfare and campaign works. So you might claim that they had advanced weapons. Yes, they can have advanced weapons, but you can't fight your way through. America had advanced weapons against Afghanistan, and they couldn't take the country.
They almost did. They was conquering for more than 20 years. So they
They didn't
almost
conquer
have
America.
colonized it.
America only controlled maximum 20% of the country. Maybe the nation's capital. That's what they control.
Yeah,
But
but even 10% or 5%, if you able to
listen,
exist there, is a form of colony.
let me tell
It's
you one thing.
basically colonization.
That's not what happens. You have to understand. When you own 10% of the land, you have what we call a presence there, but you don't control the nation. The control usually comes after, and purpose can chip in. That it comes through education, right? It comes through religion. Americans try to, and I think many people who paid attention during the Afghani war, there was this phrase: "We gotta win their hearts and mind." Well, their hearts and mind, and that's how you conquer the people when you make them mentally weak. That's how you conquer the rest of the country. You take a small in. Listen, pay attention to how colonization worked in West Africa, especially in Ghana, for example. Closer to the shore, you see the small township where they held foothold. So you'll find a place called Jamestown. You will see that those cities are similar to a mock-up of what England is, right, or Britain. So they held those places, and from those places, they made deals with other people to then spread their influence through other chiefs, kings, and whatever it may be. That's how they were able to colonize the people because they allied themselves with people. Hence, worth how the first and the second World War happened. That someone would just shoot somebody, and all of a sudden, all hell breaks loose because they have agreement with people, so they can say we own this world, but not physically, but in terms of how do I say it, sphere of influences. That's how they say we colonized the world.
Yeah, when we speak of this, yeah, I like to agree on that one. But as well, you have to understand that the black people, the Africans at this particular time, they were tricked. First of all, they were beaten down psychologically. You've already mentioned this, but and also they were tricked to probably they were offered jobs and opportunities to work with or for the white people at this particular time, and they were only going to do it for a short period of time. But unfortunately, it escalated into abuse when it had gone forward. So the whole idea that the Africans sought the Africans is a lie. White people still lying anyway. So they were offered opportunities like it is today. It was a certain form of trafficking in that time, but it was a very extreme, and hence it was called slavery. And whatever came out of it, we already know the violence and everything, and all the bits and tools of um, its repercussion until today still rear its ugly heads. So that's what we have to understand as black people, as Africans.
Yeah, and I couldn't agree more. But Mystic, I want to ask you a question. Prior to we coming here, we talk about Ethiopia being ruled by women. So, what pre-colonial gender practices do you wish had survived?
What do you mean? Like,
Let's say what kind of practice did Ethiopians practice way before? Let's say women. If to marry a woman, you had to have 15 cows or something, and today they don't practice anymore. And now you wish they practiced and those things. Let's say to protect women or give women more prominence in the society in which they find themselves.
yeah, to be honest, Ethiopia as a nation is like a world. Like to me, it's like within a world. It's a big nation, with big ethnic differences, and it's like Chinese and American and together in one nation. Well, when you see within the Ethiopian side,
Mm-hmm.
it's like linguistically and culturally has a big difference.
Verify the light. There you go.
Well, within my community though, um, I mean, the women's become more into dominant like man in this in society, or in the 1800 after the 1800s. but they become like part of the farmers, part of the militaries, commands, politics. There was more integrated, but it was mainly because of the cultures, the way they rule. They call communitarianism political philosophy. Like they kind of have like in culturally like um, more preserved to women's respect, but still though they are also part of the biblical culture. They are victim that they have to be like or submissive to their husbands. They have to listen and obedience to husband. But the thing is that when it come about marriage stuff like that, it's more about the families that they the girl's family goes to other husband, why like to find a husband, and they become agreed between the family, and then they will meet them to man and woman and together. It's like about family stuff, more about family. You don't have almost freedom to choose. And this is just one community, that one ethnic group that
And why do you
practice.
think that you don't have the freedom of to choose who to marry?
It's because cultural thing. I don't know. It's about preserving
No,
cultural to not go other married.
no,
I
and
don't think they.
that's what I say, that there have never been until what we call the ownership of things and people, because those two things are equally intertwined. That there's no reason why you will forbid your son or your daughter to marry someone unless there is something to gain.
By their
And
choice.
yeah, unless there's something to gain in that materialistic thing, and mostly it's because of materials. That is reason why people married the way they married. But prior to that, you will see people didn't have problems for people marrying whoever they wanted. But now people do because of prospects and so on, how things look.
I do myself, but it's out of my family's obedience. I don't respect their say anything, so I choose myself.
Yeah, yeah, but I understand that, and I do the same too. But I'm just making it clear why people do and say the things they do because of what they can gain. For example, if someone wants me to marry their daughter, is because of what they can gain from me, and that will be the only reason, not because of love, because of what they can gain. Because if I was broken pure, most of the women families that throw their women to me will never do that, because I'm broken pure and poor. you know
So what is the solution then
I, for
to
one,
be
think,
rich?
okay, no. I, for one, think that there are some aspects and practices that we ought to bring back in order for post colonial societies to actually survive and thrive, because we are living under hostile environments that it is killing our society. And whether you like it or not, the society that we live in as Africans to this day is not helping us. That's why we are constantly in war, because Europeans have to understand they are warring people. Europe has been in war for almost their entire existence. And so far as we are copying their democracy, their way of doing things, we also will be in constant war. Okay, especially not only the Europeans and the Arabs and the Muslims. So if we are copying their lifestyle, we are going to be in constant war with each other, and especially our women. When people say, I always say this, that why do Muslim men hate their women? Because of the way they treat their women. So when we are learning from these people, we are going to treat our women poorly too, more poor than we are treating them, if I may add.
No,
And
I mean, I think from their point of view, to a woman is like basically from religious. It's like they see women as a material, not like it's
but
like unproduct.
But that's what
I mean,
we are saying, and that's what you're. I'm saying that women are not a product. That's why I'm telling that they have been domesticated, so they become a product, something that you can own and give away and do with whatever you want. So that means it's, as I told you, slavery. Basically, that's what it is. You marry a woman just for her to come and serve you because you are the master. You see, so it's like when we talk about these matters, that the colonization mindset must go away too. That we have to treat our men better. I can sit here and men and women better. I can sit here and speaking about deconstructing from religion, and then forget the pinnacle, the cradle of our civilizations are women, that we have to treat them better. Or you
Yeah,
don't agree that black women ought to be treated better.
of course they have.
Yeah, and so do I, and I know purpose do agree to that. African women needs to be treated, because when we treat them better, you will see all of a sudden their way of behaving will change.
I also think we need to protect our women to an extreme level, because I think they are our most important resource. And I know, of course, the women that were Gaddafi's security team were not
Yeah,
were not black, but look at that. You think we spoke about this last time? Gaddafi was not stupid to pick an all-female team to protect him. I mean, think about it.
Yeah, but that guy at the same time he was also abusing them.
he
Come on.
he was abusing them.
Yeah, he was having sexual with them. Like when you go deep and study about what happened to those who was like guards, there was also part of the sexuality abusive
but
by
but
him.
but I think that's a military thing, not necessarily him abusing those women, because in the military where there are men, the men get fucked in ways too. So by the superiors too. It has happened everywhere. I'm not defending Gaddafi, but we have to, usually when we are pointing a finger one way, we have to point all ways that it affects. You know. So yes, regardless of what women are necessary, because they see danger. You see your sister say, I don't like these people because yeah. So
I can maybe in some extent trust in leadership women, but when it comes about like fighting defending its nation from foreigner invasion, it's impossible to trust a queen or a woman to
and
protect.
you have to understand, no leader, right, runs the military. Yeah, and that's one thing you have to understand.
No, they do
No,
have
no, no, no.
command. They have strong order and they have
It doesn't work.
organizing.
It doesn't work that way. Listen, in any society, right, you have people who study war, people who invent weapons for war, and people who actually study war and know their strengths and weaknesses. Those people will present usually options that a leader should take, and the leader takes the final decision. But you have to understand the option was um, presented by their generals, their commanders, and so on, because they know their military the most.
Because of their head leaders
Yes,
organize them.
yes, and that's how it works. So regardless whether it's a man or woman who is leading, right? Elizabeth led England for so
In
long.
decision making, I am speaking in decision making.
Elizabeth led England, for God knows how long.
Uh, uh, I mean, she haven't had that power to to lead an army.
Lizzie, Lizzie led the war against Argentina, where Argentina military, I think they took some an island that belonged to the British.
Falkland,
Yeah,
Falkland, they
the
call
Falk Islands. Yeah,
the Falkland. Yeah.
she's rolled the steam navy, and they bombarded hell of Argentina, and they got their lands back. So as I told you, it's not necessary, because the concept that women is not able to is a colonial concept. That if you understand how war and these things work, you understand
No,
that.
you can see the way they speak. Like they speak very fast, and they don't like. I mean, if you see them like woman and man in one room, you can see that the woman will speak thousands of words in just 1 minute, and the man will few.
You see, when
But
you're a
Helen, you
woman,
explain anything, Mystic. You know.
I know you can see the ideas of how they speak and how they take a decision and
Mistake,
how
let me
they
tell you one thing.
manage.
I, for one, right, when I am in a room full of women, I get respect. I don't command because the women know I'm capable of doing certain things. If you're a man that is not capable, where a woman knows she's more capable than you, she will never respect you. And that's the bottom line. Women respect men, they know those men are capable, who hold their world. the word that they say is going to do something, does it, women will respect that. But if you're a man that demand respect, but you can't put things in order, no woman is going to respect you, and that's the bottom line. You see where I'm going with this, and that's where it lies more towards that rather than all women are a certain way. No, women respect power and authority. So if you are a powerful man, yes, you're gonna be respected. If you are not, and she's stronger than you and she's better than you, she will not respect you. And men don't do the same too either. Men also respect authority.
Yeah. Look, I think in every aspect of life, either man have to be the superior or a woman man have to be 50-50.
Okay, I want to ask you a question. If you should have a daughter, right, in the world that you describe, would you want your daughter to serve her husband?
Of course.
Okay, that means serving her husband is that regardless of her
Not
condition.
like not like a slave, but like serving as like as a wife and husband.
No, 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 no. There's either one way or the other. It's either one or two. You can't have in between. It's either you are serving your husband or you are not serving your husband. To serve is giving you all. Okay, so you make sure they whatever he says she has to obey. So if he says, "Oh, don't visit your family, don't visit your father, you have to stay with me, I'm your husband,"
Yes.
she have to obey it.
Yes, but it doesn't. There is a limit. She cannot do whatever he says, but there is a limit.
Why? Where and who reinforce those limitations?
Her choice. I mean, it depends on her choice.
No, choices don't enforce limitations, and that is why it is. As I always say, that these ideologies are dangerous to have as men, when we claim that women are supposed to serve, because when it comes to reinforcing these things, it is very difficult, And I think 2 lives back, I was speaking about slavery and Islam and so on, about those regulations. Islam saying you're supposed to treat your slaves good. Okay, fine, but who reinforces the law when the slaves are not being treated well? And that's where the problems happen. So when men say these things, right, especially in societies where it is not structured in a way where it rewards and do not reward certain behavior, it is difficult, and it's rather dangerous to live in a society where the society pushes to domesticate the women and forget that women are more than uh, serving their men, because some men are, to be frank, are not capable of doing things. And I know you do disagree though, but yet again we know that to be true, that you can't allow these things to happen without limitations, that they need to be limited, or else people will just do whatever they like. So moving on, do you think gender roles are binding, or do you think like they are fluid?
You ask me?
Yeah, and purpose too,
Yeah,
that
yeah.
is.
Of course, it's fluid. Nowadays, it's fluid.
It's
It's
it's not
become
it's not
fluid.
it's not that, not nowadays per se, but you think nowadays it is and has, or else it was always either this or that.
Look, I don't believe that before this era was like. I believe there's always been man and woman in existence to like to the world to civilizations.
What
I
about
don't
you?
believe
What
this.
what about you? Purpose? Do you think gender roles are fluid or binding?
They've always been fluid, but they've just changed recently, somewhat. Or they, yeah, I feel that they've always been fluid.
Yeah, and I hold that to be true, because when you do deep research into ancient civilizations, either from the way from Africa to the Americas, to the Indians and the Aboriginals, you will see that the role that women played was never binary. It was never this or that. It was fluid. It changed with time. But here lies a situation where we are, with compulsion, we are forcing women to behave a certain way, and it is killing our society as colonized people. I see you. I see you. Uh, Scott. Today's topic. Yeah, you can talk about that one. Yeah, I understand. Your wife is behind side. Yeah, it's gonna
I
be a
can't
difficult one.
I can't imagine marrying like masculine women, like strong and economically strong and everything.
And that's the thing.
This is like to me, it's like marrying a man.
You
Uh,
see, and I think that is a problem with modern society. Is this, when you live in certain societies, especially those who live in Europe as Africans, right? And I'm telling you why this thing is funny. There's a likelihood that when you meet women, especially people who are native to those countries, they will be richer than you, especially if you're a foreigner. That means her father, grandfather have given her wealth. Okay, so here lies a unique situation. Are you then gonna say, well, just because she's richer than me, I'm gonna not be with her and go and find a woman that is broke? Then I, uh, you know what I mean? Just a few coins, thousands that I make, then I can feed her. Because what are you gonna use with your do with your money? And I think, does it make you less of a man if your woman makes more money than you?
no, look. When I say when they are like richer than myself, they have an ego of saying like they trying to be like the dominators, like they're
No,
the one, they're like the owners of.
let me tell you, I have
I
I
would
ha-
treat me like a slave.
no, nah,
Come
it
on.
never happened. Listen, let me tell you one thing.
If wait, if a
Okay,
man have like a more superior in economic and strong, I don't think he will enslave her. Like she have a choice to leave him alone or to be with him. Like it's not normal.
that's not true.
Part of the
Let
natural
me tell you,
state. But if the
I've
woman
been
become a
surrounded by a lot
dominator,
of rich
the
women.
game is over.
I've been surrounded by a lot of rich women. The thing is, if you are a man and you are confident in your masculinity, right? You are confident in what makes you a man. Money doesn't matter. Just because she's rich could be a term of let's say situation that happened to be, or just a period where she's richer than you, or maybe forever. But yeah, again, it doesn't change your masculinity. I'll be like, listen, go buy the paint. I'm gonna paint the house. And that's what makes you a man. Like you do those things. But if you're like, oh, I want to that, you see the house need a new painting, but because you know you can afford, you go out of your way to go and do things. And that's why many African societies crumble, families crumble, because not only Africans, uh, people who have been colonized, let's say the native Indians, you see, you find yourself as a group of people in economic inferior positions. So sometimes you have to steal money, because people hold the ideology that you have. So you see the men rather doing illegal things, rather to do the thing that is, oh, let me borrow the money, or okay, you buy it, I'll do the other job, so that you actually become a union. But because of your ego as a man, you rather spoil the family, because it doesn't sit right by you that your woman is richer than you. And I ask that, where does that thought come from, and how does it make you less of a man? Because my manhood is not tied to the money in my pocket. It is a plus, but one thing I know for sure, that broke men, you know what, that's not a topic for today, but or else. But you understand what I mean. How is the money in your pocket tied to your masculinity?
Like I think maybe it's more just religious. I don't know, but it's have to be like the man is the provider, the man who take care of families and so on. But
Let me tell you something. And this is the reason why I hold the ideologies that I hold. Okay, growing up in Ghana, there were times where my father wouldn't have work. My father was a bricklayer, right? So there was some times where if people couldn't afford to build houses, then bricklayers wouldn't have a job. So COVID, when COVID came, okay, people lost their job. So there are times where the profession that my mother held was prominent, like it was profitable in times. So then she could be the breadwinner. She's the one who give money so things could go on in the house, pay school fees and so on. Those have been times where, let's say, my father's job will, there'll be more people who can afford houses, more contracts, then money will come. So if the masculinity of a man, right, is tied to how much money he can provide, so what happened is that you destroy your family, because you tend to chase things that are not necessary. Because okay, instead of well, fine, your woman have money, there's money in the house, you just have to be present. So that, let's say, oh, you take care of your children while you can, while the woman goes to work. It doesn't make you less of a man. And I think these are the things that we have to talk more about to deconstruct our minds from those toxic mentality. I have friends that I've met, beautiful women, strong women, but just because these women make a little bit more, it doesn't sit with. Now I have to break up with her because it doesn't sit right with me that my woman makes more money than me.
Uh, I think, look, I mean, man, I believe man is like, it doesn't have to struggle to get money. It's like it's easy for him to get a job and be
It is not
successful.
easy.
Yeah, it's not that difficult. But then the thing, a woman tends to chase man for money, and somehow you see the weakness already. You can see that.
Women
Uh,
don't chase money. Women chase stability and survival. Okay.
yeah,
So
but this is for survival. Have to have a rich man, at
yeah,
least stable man.
listen.
But
Sometimes we
the
men,
broke man will never chase a rich woman to survive. He
who
will like
told you?
just
I know a lot
just
of broke men that chase
nah
rich
nah.
women.
Come on, that's
I'm telling you with full chest. I know a lot of men who are
come on.
broke that chase rich women.
So you calling me a man is a
And
gold
I'm
digger.
telling you with full chest, they'll tell the woman, "Oh, I need a new PlayStation. My friend need a PlayStation." I have friends
Oh.
like that, and I do benefit from those relationships. So I know what I'm talking about. These are men that don't work. They have a sugar mommy. I'm telling you. Yeah, it's
I think either they have to be very young so that they don't care about life, about but maybe some very
listen.
few.
Let me tell you one thing. I don't mind if my woman was richer than me, and I don't purpose. I don't know. You can. I don't know if you do mind. I don't mind. If she's rich, she's rich. Good. More stability in the family. I have to do less. Trying to do the less I have to work. And I can focus on being a husband, a boyfriend, or whatever. And that's the most important part of the union. Rather spending time looking for money, I don't have to look for it because it's unnecessary.
It doesn't
If
matter really. It
if
doesn't
if
matter.
she if she's richer than me, I'm not gonna marry her. But if she have like stable like normal, okay.
And that is the problem. And I think that people have to, like these men, you have those ideologies that you yourself can't explain why and where it comes from. And do you know what is funny to me? Most of us men, right, we have been fed by women our whole lives. And that's what pains me is this: before you could walk, a woman had to bathe you, a woman had to feed you with her breast that you sucked on, and so on. So then we've come to a point where when you are strong enough, you feel like all of a sudden you can do more, but one thing remember, for we lack the experience. Those who have done it the longest usually have the experience, to take care of. If your mother have taken care of you to be 18, don't think she can take care of you 18 more years? She could, because she have the experience. She knows how to make the money, but you don't. So you have to actually try out to find ways to make more money. So the idea that and it's not only you, many men, and I will say I myself, I'm a victim of such a mentality, is that you people tell you, nah, my woman can't be richer than me. Nah, as a man, I'm supposed to be the
But
provider.
look, I'm not forcing her to get me birth. Like nobody have forced it. It's her will, and it's her responsibility to take care of her child. It's like a part of her nature.
So
Nobody's forcing her like to have child. I mean, I'm not choose myself to come to this world.
so I'm
Mystic, Mystic, listen. Your goal should be, because your children focus, perhaps, I assume. Sorry if I'm assuming, but you need to marry well enough to ensure that just in case you're not around, your wife can take care of your kids.
Yes, of course. You speak about destiny, about like fate. Look, I'm not gonna just have children for nothing. I have to plan. If I want to have children, I have to have prepared for it. If I'm not, then I'm not gonna have child and then left them on the middle of nowhere.
No, I think that's false. I think people put too much emphasis on preparation to have children, especially in the wrong aspect, the wrong parts of preparation. There are right way to prepare to have children, and there are wrong ways to prepare to have children. If one of the parents have money, that's why you are two. have money, you have that means. So you, as a man, you focus on the means to make sure either you multiply the money or so on. I don't have problem borrowing money from my woman. I have done that multiple times, borrowing money from a woman to further my business because she had the money. It was more eco-friendly for me to borrow from her than to go and borrow from the bank. I have done that, And now, even though now things are better off, I still, remember the days you gave me money when I didn't have. Let me show you some appreciation because of that, you know but you have to find when something you think about, because we'll have this conversation again. It's a very interesting one where we talk, so think about it, like, why does it affect my life so much that it I would rather struggle than to have a stable life, and I think for me, I think it ties with colonization, that you rather want to struggle than to have a soft life.
Like, I mean, to have your children and
No, to
to
be
take
with
care
a
of them.
woman that has money. Who told you that? No, no, no. You, the man, have to have more money than the woman. Who told you that?
Because I know it. Like, it's like part of my nature.
It's not part of your nature. Mind you, money was
It is
invented
because I'm
recently.
a stronger, I'm smarter.
No, because it feeds into your first statement, right? The statement in which you meant that men are superior. So, in order to maintain your superiority, you need to have more money.
Okay, look.
Yes.
If there is a industry, a lot of industry, do you think those manage the employee will like employ a woman or man? They will like a man. They will like they want
In
to
case
see
of what industry?
any kind of industry, heavy
Of
uh,
course. And that's what I'm saying. When it comes to
for example, in
jobs,
my company, there is more than 300 people, and I see only three women
yeah, I
out
understand.
of 300 people.
If it is a job that
Why do you think that?
requires a lot of, no, if it's a job that requires a lot of heavy lifting, right? You will see men who,
Yeah, that because of this I can be rich, and the women who are working like
you can be
cleaning or
rich, but
something, they
one thing you have to understand about economy is that it's never designed to make you rich, especially in those kind of
no,
works.
I know it, I know it.
Yes, exactly. So we in the working class, and we have to understand people who have been designed to be poor, or they've designed our countries to be poor.
You
We
can
have
never
to.
be like rich from working, just working. You have to do something else.
Exactly. We can't have the mentality that you have in that, oh, if my woman makes more money than me, I'm not gonna date her. It's a very, it's like it's doing yourself disservice, you know. And
I don't like.
because you make money a problem, it's like, oh no, I'm going to provide, but what can you provide? And the funny thing is that if the woman asks you for money, right? I need money for this, you don't want to give.
I will give her.
You won't give her if you want money. Listen, I for
Come
one,
on,
there are
man is the one
things.
who
Listen,
give her. Like
my
the
money,
man is the
right?
one, the provider. Bro,
Listen, my money has
look,
rules and regulations. There are some
look,
things my money don't
man.
buy.
Look,
Me,
when it comes about his children and wife, man is like God, acting like God. Come on,
there are things that my
in
money
every
don't buy.
society.
There's not things that my money don't buy, right? So even if I have a woman and I'm as rich as the richest man on earth, there's still things that my money won't buy. And I won't give her money for that. She have to use her own money to do those things. That is a rule that I have. And everyone that knows me knows that there are some things my money won't buy and will never buy either. So let's move on and talk about sexuality, the domesticating of, we're talking about domesticating of women still, and the sexuality, the role women play in terms of sex and so on. Mind you, we're on TikTok and YouTube and everything. So I turn to use the technical terms. I don't want to use those fruity terms, so that we are grown people over here, right? That's why it's 18 plus, right? You people think that the role that women plays in terms of sexuality after colonization have changed or is the same? And the people in comments, of course, can do comment and voice your opinions. Do you guys think it has changed? The role that women hold have changed or is the same in terms of sexuality? Because I, for one, believe it has changed, but I want to hear your opinion.
Uh, to be honest, I don't know before that, but maybe it has. I think have been more not to married, but just to materialize.
I think the role of when it comes to domestication of women and sexuality, right? It has changed in one aspect where women are shamed more for doing the same things men do. Okay, so for example, a woman can sleep around with five men. A man can sleep around with five men. A woman is more likely to be, eh, worst case scenario, killed for the same crimes that a man did. So then we ask ourselves, as Africans, people and people who not only Africans but also post-colonial societies, right, where you live in societies where it was either fairly common to see these things, but then came Christianity, Islam, and so on. All of a sudden, those things are forbidden, and it's always almost a death sentence to be doing the same things you did. So imagine you lived in a society, right, where last year or last month or whatever, this thing was okay, then because someone signed something in the law, that same thing is illegal. So what happens? Women are beaten because someone came to your nation, colonized the country, and say the women are supposed to wear and do this and do that. You know, and I for one thing is fairly disturbing, and we have put women in a situation where women are how do you call it, when they cheat, they are smart about it in ways where some women, I'm not gonna say all women, but it's like in ways where they can stay and also find, pleasure somewhere else. But I for one, and I've talked about this thing, and when we're speaking, and people who are in the comments do pitching. Someone saying women don't cheat. As I say, men don't cheat either, you know, and I think all the men in the panel will agree. But yet again, this is the change. Okay, so for many societies, right, especially post-African societies, a woman sleeping with multiple men wasn't frowned upon. There's no one who was counting how many dicks you had in your vagina. No one was counting those things. People started counting when white people came around. That how many dicks has been in your vagina. It was more of like, oh, um, you could give me this. If you were doing children, you had to have sex to make children. That's what the purpose was. Or pleasure, that's what it is. No one knew about it. No one was counting. There was no jealousy. And if you make a deep dive, you can or take a deep dive, you can actually see those things. But the sexuality of a woman now in modern day society, right, where people find themselves in a situation where they beat their own sisters, their mothers in certain in many regards, for just for other men's action. I think that's what is dangerous about it. Okay, for example, let's say your sister is innocent in this and she was raped, right? In many societies, especially people who are ultra religious into Islam and Christianity, the blame is mainly shifted on the victim, where they rather kill the woman to protect their honor. And I think that is a dangerous environment to be in. So when people tell me that their environment is safe, like their society is safe, I always say this: I want a woman's opinion before I come there. Because women will tell you whether it's safe or not. This is why I'm against baby mama culture. It is way to demonize women. In what way? I like baby mamas. I don't know. Is there anyone who like baby mamas? I think having baby mama is nice. Like one baby mama, of course. But because I don't believe in marriage in the same way that how do you call it? Religion would prescribe it from the pharmacy. Religious pharmacy is gonna a new word I'm gonna use. The religious pharmacy prescribes.
Well,
You gonna say something?
um, yeah, I mean, the bit about baby mamas is very problematic because I think if there is agreement from the parent from the paternal side to take care of this child or the children that are born out of these situations, then it's actually all right. But when it comes to fighting for child support and pulling each other's teeth, it's really a lot of work, and it's a bit chaotic and strenuous on the woman, and also just basically on the children growing up because they don't have somehow an identity, or for example, with they don't have access to resources like school and healthcare and things like this. So I have a problem with baby mama culture, even if it's a bit wild and ratchet. I know what you mean, but it's a bit problematic if you ask me.
I grew up right around women. You know, when I was growing, me and my brother, it was only me and him. The everyone around us immediately were women. The neighbors were majority women, and the kids. So I don't know. Maybe it's me. I don't see it as a bad thing in a certain way because society that I lived in was like that. It wasn't basically a baby mama. It was you had your mother and sometimes your fathers changed, if it made sense, or the person who was taking care of them changed, or the men changed. That was the society I grew up in. So you were you were more tied to your mother than your father, if I'm gonna put in more simpler terms, and that's the society I go in.
Guys, I'm gonna leave for now. I have to make something.
No
So I'll
worries.
come back. Maybe if you stay long, I come back.
Of course, I'm here for 3 hours, so don't worry.
Oh my
There's
God.
still time.
Okay.
There's
We have
still
been
time.
already 1.5 hour.
One and a
Okay.
half hour already, so there's still time. Hello, Miss Kamara.
Hi guys, can you guys hear me? I'm outside. It's very windy.
We can hear you, but there's no wind, so don't
Okay.
worry.
Okay, good, good, good. No, because what I meant when I'm like, okay, because baby mama culture and because I feel like just like the word baby mama, I feel like it was used to kind of like shame women who had like multiple, like baby daddies or whatever. But back in the day, like especially in Africa, I don't know, like in this case of Europe, but it was very, very normal for women to like have different kids with different dads, and nobody really cared because it was matriarchy, right? Like we used to raise our kids with our sisters, with the community. So it wasn't the thing of oh who is the kid's dad. It was more of oh Mama Saleh, Mama Naomi, Mama, like who is your mom? Oh no, that's Mama who so and so, but and also when it comes to like making broken homes, I feel like men who impregnate different women create broken homes, but women who have different dads, like different kids with different dad, because we're from the same womb, and because it is the mom who usually raises the kids, we are at least all raised in the same household, if it makes sense. So just like yes, men going around procreating actually destroys, but women doing it, for me, I don't know, I might be biased, but yeah. I just wanted to give a long explanation. I don't know if it made sense, but yeah, that was just it. Thank you.
Purpose, you wanna rebuttal? I don't know.
Yeah, because I wanna know this for a fact. Uh, would you say then the women are problematic by accepting men as seeing them as a ray of hope and possibly as a sort of relief to maybe helping women or uh, enabling them to or allowing them to enjoy something temporarily with a false promise of perhaps we could get married or perhaps we could establish a family, and then of course everyone is wrong in there because everyone is opening their legs, and there's a problem there already.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's also important to kind of like also realize that not every woman on this earth is interested in marriage. I think that people think that just because you are a woman, that oh, being interested in men or that your whole life is about getting married or a man is here to do. Like some women just want to fuck. Like some women just want to have sex. Some women just want to live life. Like for example, me, monogamy is not something that's for me, for example, but because I'm a woman, people might assume that, oh my gosh, no. I think that like a lot of women live life like men, but because we've been conditioned to not show it, we're not allowed to. Just like a woman now saying that, yeah, I have multiple sexual partners. We will shame her, but a man doing it, that's like uplifting him. But people don't know that we literally have an organ in our body that's just meant for pleasure. Literally, we have an organ in our body that's just it's not meant for anything else than to be pleased. So if we even look at biology, And if you even look at how the body is set up, we are the ones who are supposed to be out here fucking around, jumping in everyone. But because the way we have been conditioned, we don't even do that, you know? So I don't know how to, but I just, yeah, how to give you the answer. But I just think that well, not everyone is here to get married and wanting to do that, and not every woman thinks of a man as their savior. And I know that men think that, but that's not the truth. Because a lot of men don't even like a good man is just a half of it's a regular woman. That like a good man, a man that is the best man that we praise is just an average woman doing the things that an average woman does every day, just caring, just being a proper human being.
I wanted to say something, and men, I think you're not gonna like what I'm gonna say. But one thing that is for sure, the reason why men shame women, and I think this is the majority of men shame women for sleeping around, is this: that we men don't like the feeling we get when we finally meet a woman that we like, and you find out another man has been there before you, and that's what it is. You know, men, I know you would disagree, but we know that is true. And that pain, because of that pain, we tend to limit women, you, you know, so that they don't, so that for our own gain. And I said it before that loving someone is a selfish thing. It's not, you don't do it for the person, but rather for yourself. But there's one thing I wanted to say about there was a research that went on to see men or women who are more sexually active, right? And they find out, women will be aroused by anything. So they could play, let's say, a video of goats fucking, chickens fucking, horses fucking, and you see women will all of a sudden be aroused by that. But men were never aroused to those things. They were either aroused specifically when they're humans doing it, by women, it doesn't matter. If even it was stones, you know, being portrayed in a sexual way. So yeah, it is true. Women are most, yeah. You say
I
something,
think that
Prophet.
statement is problematic in itself, and the research is actually problematic and a bit bogus, if you ask me.
How so?
I mean, I don't know really how we can actually admit it that men are getting off easily by seeing anything,
No, no, women rather.
going at it.
Women rather.
Oh, this is really strange. I thought it was the other way
No,
around.
no, no. The men rather are not that sexual that we think. But women were aroused by things that usually people don't get. You could put two stones in a sexual manner, and all of a sudden they were aroused by it. So, but
Oh,
yes.
I have seen a lot of things, going to the gym, seeing a couple of things. I've partied really hard in the past. I went to a very sexual liberal club in Berlin, Berghain, and a lot of things happen there that are not supposed to be spoken about. So it's, I think, I don't know really if it's quite fair to say that women are more or less or aroused by things or rather than men, but I think it's a men in this case because I've seen a lot of things.
No, no, but the research is a research, but then society is also one thing. Researchers are used basically in a controlled environment.
Yeah, we
Who
need
says
to
they highly
reevaluate
you
that
highly
research.
doubt that what women are more sexual than men, or the way other way around?
It's the other way around, really. I doubt it. But anyway, we know we just leave it open ended, won't we? I think to each their own.
Okay, right then. Let's move on then. So then naturally it comes to the topic of submission. The idea that a woman is supposed to submit to a man. And I want to hear your opinion. People in the comments or listening, do comment. Should a woman submit to a man? Should a woman submit to a man? And when we talk about submission, in what way then should a woman submit to a man? Because I, for one, with what I've witnessed, as I've been live on this earth for 31 years, some women, you shouldn't give them even 1%. Some men, you shouldn't give them 1% of submission because um, they just abuse it. You know, there are some people who that they are so capable that it's, you don't call it submission. You don't have to do much because he does it for you. Right? Someone says no. So what? Women shouldn't submit to men then. That's what you're saying. What about you, Purpose?
Nobody should submit to anybody because for what reason really? Why are we submitting? Why are people submitting themselves and they start playing sexual roles, sexual fantasy games?
Scott should be here. You know what, Scott? You can type. Scott can type. I don't know why he's been held hostage. Scott, if you've been held, blink twice if you need help. We'll come and rescue you from whatever situation you are in. You know.
Yeah. Marriage is a beautiful thing, isn't it?
where is his freedom of speech? you know, but yeah, yeah. I also agree with you that yes, no one should be. Submission in itself is a dangerous. It's a dangerous thing because when people hear submission, they think absolute submission where you do as I please. That, but in retrospect, there's nothing like total submission. And in order to have total submission, you have to reinforce it. And that's what creates what we know as domestic violence. Because when you have to reinforce your woman, let's say she wants to go out, I say no. You say, yes, I want to go out. You have to use some kind of force. Okay, hence what Mystic said that men are stronger. So when you use those force, right, to restrict the woman, all of a sudden the likelihood of women fighting back and people who have when you read the statistic of rape, you see those women, you have to beat them in order to be able to do away with them or do whatever you want with them, and that's what usually happens. Domestic violence happen. So I for one do not promote the ideology behind submission to the person, or a man or a woman, but whoever is capable of doing it the best should do it. So for me, that's where my gender roles lies. Whoever is best. So if I cook and you had diarrhea or you didn't like the way I cook, next time do the cooking then. Or else you're gonna have diarrhea the rest of your life. That's how I my life, because that's what it is. Or am I wrong in my assessments?
I mean, I think if you ask me, people should cook for themselves. Even if you're married, you have to take care of yourself. I think this whole idea of waiting for somebody to do something on your behalf it creates inefficiency.
Yeah, one thing that and it's back to the economic topic. Um, should Because as a man, I hold the view that women shouldn't work. You know, and do you think women shouldn't work, or anyone in the comments? Do you guys think that women shouldn't work?
It depends really on the circumstances. I think some people don't want to work, or they just cannot work, or they have generational wealth and they don't want to work. That's fair. But if they need to survive to go ahead in life, they have to work. But they shouldn't marry into a family hoping that this will be their lottery ticket, because this usually leads to a lot of abuse and a lot of violence and so on and so forth. And yeah, you need
It,
to be able to support oneself.
there is a idea that quivers in the shadows that when a woman have money, all of a sudden she have more options in which she's less likely to submit to a man or whoever supposed to be her controller. And I think it's fairly funny because money was something that was created, or the concept of money was created by, of course, men. And now that they've created it, it's something that we also tend to limit to who can have it and what they can use it for. So the idea of limiting women in terms of economics is fairly new to me, and I didn't even knew that it was a thing until I came to Europe. That women weren't allowed, let's say, to vote. Women are allowed to have their own money. I'm like, women are not allowed to have their own money. Really? Is that a thing? You know? And when I see Africans practicing the same thing today, and in a world where money is or the women that we have in our society are the backbone of our civilization, I think it's very funny to me that the men are all of a sudden limiting the women because it speaks on their masculinity, or they feel like, oh, if my woman works, then she's likely to leave me, and because she don't need me anymore. So then the question is, men, and this is the men, is our value, or is our value tied to how much money or what we can provide? What's that?
Not necessarily, but I think in the African setup, it's very, very interesting how y- people will be in a relationship, maybe young people, 18 years old or going forward, or whatever age group. But there is this bit of provision to the woman from man's side for hair, for the nails, for this and this. I've heard a lot of these stories, and I've seen a lot of things like this firsthand. And on the flip side, it depends, really, not with everybody, but I've seen a good number of people do that. Oh, my boyfriend bought me this. Oh, my boyfriend bought me this. I have to do this for my girlfriend. But in the European context, or the American version, I saw a lot of people that are just liberal. They exist by themselves. They can go anywhere they want. They can do exactly what they want. I have really friends that I had, and the wife was the big earner in the family. The husband, they had two kids, amazing European couple. They were living in Africa. They were amazing people. They're now back in Sweden. We talk sometimes, and I didn't see any stride. And their marriage has gone on. They've been married for a very long time, 20 years plus now, I think, and it works perfectly all right. And I never asked the husband about this because I didn't think it was a problem, but he opened up about it to me somewhat. But I didn't want to go into detail. Like, how do you feel less than? He just says, "Oh, she's my wife. I love her, and we're happy."
And that's how it's supposed to be. That's how it's supposed to be. That, yeah, if she's fortunate enough to bring more money, there's more money for me. I don't mind my woman buying me a PlayStation, a couple of games, because maintaining gaming addicts is expensive, people, and those who play games know what I'm talking about. So if my woman is paying for it, I don't shy. I'm like, yeah, pay for it so I can be more happy. The less money I have to spend, the happier I am. that's that's me for sure. But people, hey, do you have questions before we move on? Before we move on the topic of domesticating of the women, why men push to domesticate the women more and more.
Why
We
is there a difference between maybe the way of how economics run in the African and from the African woman's side and the European woman's side, on just on a simple basis, not on a deep level? I mean, there's a lot of independence from the European woman. You can go out and I'm not saying African women don't do this. I have friends. We went out and we are having an amazing time. All African, all black, all with their own money, perfectly okay. But I've seen some sort of gaps in some situations.
so why is it there's a difference between money?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, in terms of resources, perhaps their views on resources is like there's a little
Because
of like, yeah, a man should provide. A man should provide from the African side.
it has never been that way, for the longest of time, that a man was supposed to provide. You were supposed to help, but not be the provider. The woman was also as capable as the man. But when people became Christians, people became Muslims, people became Jews, that's when there was that paradigm shift where people rather tend to say, "Oh, a man is supposed to provide. You're supposed to bring the chop money, and I cooked." But in a society where it's very fragile, Ghana, South Africa, and so on, we can't afford to how do you call it, have our women as refugees. They have to provide for the greater good of the society. But if we tend and keep having our women as refugees, then our nation won't grow. That's hence why nations like Somalia, West Africa, Nigeria, especially those who are heavily militarized by religion, um, you see they are in deeper shithole than those who are not deeply influenced by religious rule. you know, and that's what many African nations have to understand. Our societies were, and it's not, African, even post colonial nations, whether the red Indians and whatever they mean, that when people who live in reservations, that imagine you are living in reservations, right, where you are oppressed as a group of people, but then you as a man feel like you have dominion over the woman to um, oppress her because it makes you feel valuable in a world of full of oppression, and where in that extent, or in that case, both the man and the woman need to stay together in order to be stronger. And that's why I spoke earlier about the treatment of the women, that if you treat them well enough, there's the likelihood that they will stand with you than your enemy. If we treated our women better, because they will say, "No, I love my men." That is why you don't see Somalian women in larger numbers, dating outside of their this, because they know their men will kill them. and and that's it. But it's like, I feel like the perspective that Mystic also bring is very unique, and it's not unique, but it's very common, and I think it brings dynamic to this topic, where I try to understand where he stands and where those thinking comes from. And the funny thing is that you can't prove it, because when you mean that men are supposed to do certain things, usually I want it to be from in a foundation where it is undeniable fact. That the facts are, yes, men are supposed to do this, and it's undeniable. And women are supposed to do these things. It's undeniable, because either they do it better, or whatever reason it may be. And that's the reason, I think that's where I lay my differences. So, but it's been 2 hours now. Let's try to tackle the questions on the board. Or I do, where, let's say it may take us 1 hour to finish the topic. So the first one is, what pre-colonial gender practices do you wish had survived? And I think we spoke about it a little bit earlier, but I don't know if you want to take a shot at it, Purpose.
Yeah, I mean, perhaps the fluidity of gender roles would be ideal. If that stayed constant, and we speak from the African perspective, I think I would like to mention. Yeah, it would be nice to have more liberal perspective on gender roles and expectations, perhaps in the household, and yeah, a more neat family, neat packed family, and when families were still together, it would be nice to see the father in the household again, somewhat.
Mm,
I don't know what distorted that part really.
religion did. I, for one, think that yes, the thing, the pre-colonial practice I wish survive is the role of women in societies. That women had could maintain the roles that they maintained, because it created balance in society. It was healthy for children to see that women had value in society. Um, when it comes to economics, that our masculinity as men is not tied to how much money we could provide. So if you live in a society where men and women worked and provide what they could, you don't feel yourself less or more of a man because you had more money. So I think to tie your masculinity to money is fairly stupid and very dangerous, because money is something that comes and goes. It is never constant. Constant for a few, but the majority of the people in the world is never constant. COVID came around, and the whole world was affected. So are we gonna say all of the men felt like we are not men anymore? So we need to put on the apron. You see, so I think it's a dangerous idea to tie your masculinity to your economical capabilities or power. Um, Another thing that I think I wished was, you see, one thing that we know as humans is that when we limit something, right? And people who are listening, you could tap your screens, show some brother some love. But listen, one thing that I will know, that when you limit a certain behavior for human beings, that's exactly what they want to do. So I wish we could find better ways of dealing with the situations, the issues that we have as people, instead of it being either you killed somebody or you had to punish somebody in terms of physical punishment. So that's one thing I did. I think the way they did it in the olden days were better. That okay, yes, there are consequences for your actions, but if there are consequences, I mean actions that doesn't warrant, it's not a life and death situations. I think there should be more linear type of consequences than rather being the physical, stoning them to death, and banishing them from the village, and so on. Those are the things that I think, and also children being respected in societies. You know, now we find ourselves in societies where, especially I can speak for Ghana, where let's say religion have taken over, where the role of a child is also as limited as the role of a woman. So children's voices are not heard in spaces, but yes, children also bring uh, unique perspective to. It might not be as good as an adult, but using it, children might bring an idea, then you can build upon as an adult because you use your life experience as an adult to build upon those ideas that the children bring. So those are things that one has to value and create more healthy societies that we live in. You know, not everything should be held on Jesus Christ and so on, because those things haven't worked for our societies. We can see it. And I always say this, that when we speak against these people, we're not speaking about against the belief in a God, but rather what religion has brought to these societies, the way it has destroyed the foundations of those societies. And I think people who are sensible enough who can see the damage that religion has brought to certain societies, because I can say this, that people are still learning to live as a Christian in many post-colonial Africa. People are still learning to live as Muslims in their post-colonial Africa. Agobini dromo minako hamshika. Yeah, thank you very much. You know, people are giving gifts and money and stuff. People who have been listening, you should be ashamed of yourself and be showing brothers some love. You know, at least one rose would be nice. So the third question, no, I think the second question, right, is did Christianity transform African ideas about marriage and sexuality? And I think we spoke um, more of that one, where the young lady came on, Miss Kamara. And I think, yes, I for one says, yeah, Christianity transformed the African idea, and I don't only African, any other post-colonial society about marriage and sexuality, where one thing that is clear as day, prior to Africans being colonized, they didn't wear or dress the way they dress today. You know, modesty was different, but the idea of modesty now have changed because of religious terms. You know, and I think I for one think it's sad, because one thing that we know is evident, that when you limit these things, people want to do it more. So when you limit nudity in a society, the likelihood of rape and so on goes up. You can see that in places like India, Afghanistan, Pakistan, and so on, that people just do it because it is not, people are not used to nudity in the same way as other places. But in places where it's fairly common, you become desensitized to it. So if you are used to seeing breast everywhere, breast doesn't become, how will I say it, something that you sexualized. You would sexualize as you would if you weren't you were in a society where it was covered and so on, and prohibited, was only accessible through certain means and certain ways. So yes, we have to understand, when we try to limit people, we have to know what we limit and how we go about it. And what is more important, people understand why limitations exist. We shouldn't just say because God said it, and those are the things that create conflicts in societies. Whether people believe or not believe, that they have to understand the reason why they are not supposed to do things and reason why they should do a certain things. But if people lack the understanding, you only create conflict. What about you? On the same matter, the second one, purpose, and people in the comments.
Yeah, we did speak about a couple of points, yeah, and one point I'd like to mention as well is how perhaps the ideology of religion and how it atties or somehow uh, somehow it creates this strict rule that sex is only for procreation purposes, and then it limits people, and now people are kind of like confined. They might have certain urges that are different from what is somehow the norm, and so when these urges come up and the people don't know, they're confused, they don't know where to take these urges. So yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree that there should be a way to, and yet again, it's like when you also try to normalize something, you have to be careful, and it has to be well thought, or else hell is gonna break loose. So when you normalizing, let's say, nudity in a society, you have to understand for how long have these people been refrained from it, and what gains. Was again, it speaks on understanding. If, let's say, you are going to um, make more nudity accessible, or people could dress the way they like in a nation like Somalia, for example, what are the likelihood of you succeeding in terms of how people are used to it? These are men that mutilate their women because they want to prevent them from having sex. And something this is sex is something that you need to do to procreate, to make babies and make more humans. But they are you controlling that natural aspect of life in a way that is very dangerous to the human being, that you control that, because sometimes they sew the vagina shut, and those people who understand biology, when you sew skin shut for a long period of time, they merge itself together, that it becomes like a whole flesh. The natural canals are not there anymore, and these are the things that we have to take into consideration when we try to limit the bodies of women. That when does limit bypass or protection rather bypass the threshold of protection and becomes control, domestic violence, and so on. So because I for one believe that when you pass that threshold of protection becoming abusive, uh, becoming enforced and forced upon people, then it's no longer protection anymore. This is control. And one thing that is clear as day, that in Somalia and other places, the practice of limiting women in many regards are meant only for the purpose of control, but rather to protect, because prevention is better than cure. But we are trying to cure something instead of preventing it, and that's where it lies, and that's why I'm always skeptical to people who claim that they are protecting some women, but you see that the actions in which, or the means of protection, is more designed for control than protection. Okay.
Yeah. Also, when you look at some tribes, the tribe um in Eswatini, they are almost always naked. Like also the tribe in Namibia, the Himba, the women with the red hair, the red skin, and they're wearing this red. They're always 99% of the time almost naked, and there was no some sort of perversion to that. There was just it's part of their culture. It's not perverse to see a woman's titties hanging out or a woman's thing almost just it's really in your face. But nobody was grabbing for it because they did not sit in that sense, you know. So they were raised well and raised correctly. So somehow I feel how then Christianity or any other religion that came through with it, how it started stopping those people or teaching people otherwise to see it as a certain type of way or certain type of thing. And you see also in German culture, people go to the sauna with their colleagues, work colleagues, or you want to go out with me to the sauna after work. I'm not gonna go with you to see my nakedness. No, but it's this kind of thing. It's really it's a mixed bag.
And it's true. And then when we speak on the same matter, about, let's say, to preserve, because Europeans are more adamant when it comes to preserving what makes them European. So then when we, and this is me jumping to the fourth question, rather, it's not obedience, rather more of preservation, right? We know, for example, when we speak of preservation, it's a process of treating something without letting it spoil. So that is the definition of preservation. So when we think of preserving women, okay, so how do we treat women without letting them spoil? And in many cases, it's through control, where you control the women in ways where you prevent them from spoiling. So in many nations that are Islamic, they use the hijab, the niqab, and so on, and that is their way to battle that problem. But yet again, we have examples, of course, and the Christians too, in the Catholic Church and the nuns and so on. Yes, they also wore some kind of veiling. But when it comes to the Africans and the already Indians and so on, and the Native Americans, probably is a better terms to use, and the native, the Inuits and so on, you find out these are people who didn't value uh, modesty, or it's not. I don't say value, but their definition of modesty was way different than Christians, Muslims, and Jews. But then today we have a unique situation where they have a modesty thinking like Westerners, where in Brazil, for example, where the carnivals, where people are only nude for a brief period of time, versus before where they were nude all the time. So you see the transitioning of how modesty is being uh, portrayed of us today. And for me, I think it has something to do with money, because you sell clothes, you sell all of those things. But in societies where you lived one with nature, a little bit of nudity didn't help any. It didn't hurt anybody, because seeing breast was like, it was normal. It was something babies fed on, so it wasn't something sexual. So I wish society traversed, was the most African society and other societies who had this culture moved back to those ways, because it was better for the people, where you weren't frowned upon when you did a certain things. It was just normal, and of course rape and those things weren't prominent, because it was, when you search, when you search the Pornhub's their history about what kind of terms is searched in any given society, you see that the societies where it is more strict, is that Islamic or super Christian societies, you find that they usually consume the most taboo types of pornography, and I think that is very, very funny to me, that the people who are anti something consume the majority of the thing that they are anti, and it speaks volume to, for me, I think it speaks more volume to, let's say, the especially white supremacists, where they claim that, oh, we are white, we are superior. They consume more of interracial pornography, which and I don't know how we got to the topic of pornography anyways, but which they like to see black men having sexual intercourse with white women, and and those things are funny to me, that the people who are anti something usually love the same thing that they're anti the most. You want to add anything to that topic and purpose?
I think if you don't like somebody, you don't like something, you will try to move away from it as much as possible. But if you're fixated on it, you're trying to navigate and try to find out and trying to know more and more. That means it shows a level of interest. Because I have seen so many times, working out and even hanging out. I don't have so many. I don't have really white friends, but like the guys that I've got to know so far in the gym, they'll ask you either, oh, be like casually chatting about normal life. They'll be like, how big is your I'm like, nigga, what the are you talking about? So, this it's usually white guys, so I find it very a bit strange. It's where does these things come from? This wanting to know, this is a bit strange for me.
Yeah, that I agree, and it was same strange for me too when I came to know it for the first time. It was something that people did here, and I'm like, these people, man, why are you so fixated with people's body parts? Can't you just be normal? And with extension, the topics goes towards trauma. you know the majority of us, as colonized people, we hold a certain type of behavior that today people are more vocal about to be traumatizing or to be wrong, based on modern day standards. And the question that I ask, and people do correct me if I'm wrong, when people voice out, let's say, mishaps or discomfort when it comes to how they are being treated, even women, men, or whatever, based on the norms of that society. Are they wrong in the way are they wrong when they say we are being treated um, poorly? So, for example, let's use Afghanistan, for example, where in the 70s, women moved or didn't wear the hijab or the niqab, right? Even if people who were it was a little. But then came the events of the Soviet invasion, 9/11, and so on, and the few civil wars. Then all of a sudden, women are forced to veil themselves. That's what we see the modern day Afghanistan today. So if women should come out today and say that we want Afghanistan to go back to, let's say, 40 years now or 50 years, are women right in the assessment that they want their nation to go back just a few years, so that they feel more safer? Are women right in the assessment, or should things stay the same the way because men deem it to to be so? You know, and people in the comment do answer or purpose. I don't know if you wanna try yourself on that topic if you dare.
You know, yes, I'm here. Yeah. When a group of people, for example, you and I, will never understand what childbirth is.
Hmm.
Can sympathize, we can see it happen. Probably we will see it happen for us or not, whatever the case is. But we can, by of an understanding, it looks painful, or we've heard so many different stories. So, and yeah, we've seen people go through very difficult situations, and we can sympathize and say, oh, that's really a hard time, or you're having a hard one, that's really difficult. But we can never somehow, some people have the ability to put themselves in other people's shoes and sympathize or empathize, but other people do not. So when women say things like, men can't call me when I go outside, or men are doing this to us, men are groping us, men are doing this and this to us, the only thing we can do as men is understand. And when they say all men are this and that, we have to respect that, because we don't fully know what it's like. We've seen some of it happen passively, but we don't know how it feels like to be in those shoes, to be called that, to be to be hunted down for your privates, to be wanted in that type of sense. So if people are claiming and crying foul, say, "Oh, we're experiencing this. We're experiencing violence because of our skin color. We're experiencing pain because we're we're marginalized in society. We don't get adequate access to resources because of this and that, and bureaucracy and red tape and everything, you name it, pile on top." The only thing that are people that are not affected by it is offer understanding. They don't have to agree to it, and just understand, because we don't know what childbirth is like, and we'll never know that.
Yeah, I do agree that sometimes men tend to put their mouths in places where we don't have business being. And I was talking to a certain person, and I told her, if don't you think 10 women who have given birth before, two, three each, have a way to advise someone who is now coming up to get giving birth for the first time? So I tell people that women also have understanding in the suffering, as you say, that they go through. And it's very painful to live in a society where, as a woman, your wealth is tied to your obedience and what you can preserve. So the more you can preserve yourself, the the um the better it is. you know and in many cases, and this is the dangerous part, that even if you are not at fault, you are still blamed for such unfortunate endeavors. And that's what I wish change in a certain society, especially in places where they have honor killing, where, for example, yeah, you claim that you've been disgraced or she disgraced your family, so therefore you have to unalive her because she was raped, or so on. And I think that is a senseless type of ideology to have, that you punish those who do the crime, not the person who is the victim. Okay, so I for one would say that many African society preserves what we know as trauma, and many post. I can't speak for the other people, but for Africans, I know that we preserve more of our traumas than we preserved more, call it positive karma then. And I'm gonna lay a few things that I think the way we preserve our trauma, in the way we educate our children, is one way that we preserve trauma. The way we speak to our children is a way we want. The way we love is a way of preserving trauma, and so on. The list goes on and on how we preserve trauma. So then we ask yourself, how do we preserve trauma? First and foremost, our relations to each other, where our wealth is tied, especially in the men and to people who live in Europe who have families back home. Your worth is tied to how much money you have in your pocket. So how much you can give, you respected based on that. So even there are people who do have more sense than you and do more experience than you, automatically you are put on a pedestal because you have more to offer. Two, the way we treat our women, it preserves the trauma, especially places where they practice female genital mutilations. These things are traumatizing events for the women that are involved in. And I met a couple of people who have gone through the process of having that genitalia sewn and removed. And it's a traumatizing. And when you see the aftermath of it, this is horrific. And the fact that people still continue to do these things, claiming it is divine law, it is sickening to me, especially when you see the effect. It disturbs natural order because the canal are meant to give birth, and they need it to work the way it was designed to work. When you make alteration to it, you what? Damage. I think that's the reason why Somalians look the way they look, because of those education. But that's a topic for another day. I'm starting a new segment, judging a book by its cover. I think that's what I'm doing. Where it's basically about speaking based on what you see, not based on theology, but rather the actions of the people, rather than the philosophy of the people, because that's what I think is necessary. That we judge a few books by its cover, especially Africans, that we are judged by our cover. So why is obedience, praised in women, but ambition is praised in men? And it's one thing that also we already spoke about this too, and I think it's one thing that is like it's true birth. When you see a woman, a girl, and you will compliment the girl, what will you tell her? You're beautiful, you know. And in some cases she's strong, but you see that the compliments in which we compliment the girls are usually designed, weaponized compliments, to put them in the role that we claim they ought to be in. And that's something one thing we have to be careful when we shouldn't limit the minds of our daughters. We shouldn't limit the minds of our sons to only be providers. That, oh, your job is to provide for your family and that's it. And because there are men out here that suffer, we men are out here that suffer from either we are depressed, we are not happy in the situations that we find ourselves, and so on. And as the internet knows that no one gives a shit about a man, as a man, you have to suck up and be a man. You're not supposed to cry. You're not supposed to complain. You have to provide. That's what you're supposed to do. And when we talk about these topics, we also um, push and put emphasis on deconstructing such ideologies, that as a man, we have to put yourself in spaces where you can voice out your discomfort. You should put yourself in spaces where you can have people who you can trust and can help you get back on your feet when you are down, and not to surround yourself with people who will feed into your toxic masculinity, especially men who thinks their masculinity is tied to how much money they can provide to to their family and so on. But you surround yourself about men that would actually encourage you to be more than what you can provide. Because when you are only valued based on what you can provide, once you lose your ability to provide, then you're worthless. You are back to nothing. And I think if more men tie their value to other things than what they can provide, they will be valued in ways than what they can provide, because that's how modern relationship crumbles, when the man's money dry out. And R. Kelly put it beautifully, that in his endeavors and the things that, of course, everyone knows what went on with the R. Kelly. But once the money dried out, all of a sudden, people are surviving R. Kelly, but people been knowing that he was doing the things that he was doing, but said nothing because there was money. Again, it speaks volume on what he can provide. And once the money dried out, all of a sudden, oh, we got to survive R. Kelly. Also, he was a bad person, you know, but that is not the topic of today. It was just an example. So I don't know. You wanted to add anything about?
In relation to what you've mentioned, there's a story that was running right now on some platforms. I think a mayor of a county in Kenya, he had two wives, happily married, I should say, and he had a girlfriend on the side, a 26-year-old. He should have been almost 50 something or 60 years old. She fell pregnant, and he didn't want the child, and he tricked her. She wanted more money from him because he was giving money and everything. So it's about this aspect, this bit of providing. She did not abide to what he wanted. He wanted the baby gone. She couldn't do it for him, so he had abducted her and ended her life. And with everybody else, he ended her life, stabbed her in the stomach with the baby and everything, and threw her body out there. So this also just goes to show about issues of provision and looking up to what men can do and what they can't do for people. And I speak this from an African perspective, perhaps. Um, Being broken somewhat, and then running to a man for comfort or some sort of security, but only to endanger oneself's life. So men will always be praised because this man could provide for these two wives. He kept going forward and going back and forth, and then he could get a third girlfriend and he could get another girlfriend, all because of what? The money. There was nothing more to him than him being a mayor of a county in Kenya, and the money that he was earning from this.
Yeah, it's like we men who do have daughters, it's about time we teach them in ways where they also don't chase money. They don't chase materialistic things, that they chase sensible men. And I always say that this I don't do things that don't benefit me. And I think when I spoke of these things a while back, a lot of people who have had encounters, especially the women, didn't they understand. I feel I'm selfish, but later on, they start to understand what I meant with when I say I don't date people who don't benefit me. Because what's the point of dating someone who don't benefit you have to benefit me in some way. Either let's say I do this TikTok thing, you are good at promoting, there's a benefit, yes. So there's a good reason. And also maybe I have attributes that can benefit you in your life and build upon your life. So that's it. But when people started understanding that, then they finally realize that their dating lives becomes better, because they tend to ally themselves with people who can provide you with something else than money. And I think that's the most how do you call it, efficient way to go about life. And because I'm thinking, with extension, I'm gonna have the same topic, but rather for men, because I think men health is also important, that we speak, we gather around once in a while and speak about deconstructing our toxic masculinity that sometimes we also promote towards each other, which is wrong in many ways. So of course, next week I think we'll have the extension of this topic, which is the domesticating of the colonized man. I think it's that how did the man, or the colonized man, become the man that he is? Why is it that he puts more emphasis on how much money he has in his bank, where in society prior 60 years back he wasn't doing that? Why is it that he put emphasis in the amount of women and the type of women that he has around him, where in private society he didn't? And why does he put emphasis on name and so many things? So these are topics that I think are necessary to have. Then we go back to our normal topic, which is slavery. That is the topic every day.
Wow.
Yeah, but people, it's been I don't know, it's been 2.5 hours, but usually we do it 3 hours, and I think we've said the things that needs to be said, and it has been a very productive life. I actually like this life. It's when I'll add this one to the collection of podcasts so that we can People who do want to rewatch it on YouTube can actually rewatch it and share it because it's recorded. So I'm making a podcast and I'll make them accessible for Spotify too. But that's a topic for or an event for next time. But unless people have anything else to say, any questions to ask, those who have liked, shared, gifted, and promoted this life, you always appreciate it. I do appreciate it. It brings happiness to me and warms my heart. People who are joining me for the first time, or us for the first time, Purpose is a frequent flyer. Scott in the comments is a frequent flyer, and everyone who do listen, they are here every Sunday, and the times are almost the same. Yeah, topics that won't get you in trouble. Yeah, but I think talking about men won't get you in trouble. I think talking about women will get you in trouble, but men will get you in trouble. But it's about time we spoke about those topics too. Then we go back to the normal because man health is important. So people who listen to me, listen from For You page on YouTube every Sundays, we try our best to be here. If not, if there should be a duration or changes in the timeline, I'll let you know. uh, yeah, trouble with your woman. Don't worry, we'll try to. I'll keep you in mind when I'm structuring the live, so you don't get in trouble, Scott. Because it's about preserving the lives of our fellow men. All right, people. Until next time. Purpose. Thank you for your participation. It's always a pleasure to have you.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. Yeah.
Yeah. Until next time.
Cheers. Bye bye.
Bye bye.